All right, I'll clap us back in. What the fuck?
No, that was for the. No, you're not clapping us back in. That
I
was
clapped
the.
us back in.
Trying to
What?
fit this thing
Is
on.
that a sweet corn hat?
No, are we back in? Are we
We're
live?
in. We're in. This is
Oh,
going.
okay.
This might be
Okay,
the cold
well,
open.
this might be the. Oh, okay. So, one of my good friends.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. You are watching the Skull Takers, and I'm your host Dara. And joining me today is my boon companion Brian from the Red Path as well. Recently returned from a small kind of local event called the World Championships of Warhammer, where you did acceptable, I think I'll say. Today, Brian, we're going to be talking about your run at the WTC. We're going to be doing the highlights of the games, how you feel about, world leaders and the vibe and everything and all that good stuff that's going on. It's going to be the usual format if you haven't seen Skull Takers before. We're going to run through the event. We're going to talk about the games, the list that Brian played, all the good stuff that you people want to know. And I figure there's probably a lot of people tuning in who haven't seen the Skull Takers or watched the Red Path before because obviously this is quite a big event to be recapping. And for those of you who don't know, Ryan, the other member of Team Red Path, was also there, and we're going to be dropping an interview with him later on this week to talk about his run. But we have Brian here with us this evening. Brian, how are you doing, man? How was WCW?
It was awesome, man. I'm doing great too. I'm really excited with kind of my results, how I did. I set a goal for myself, and I exceeded that goal by just a little bit. Still, just a little bit counts. I did exceed it. Um, the event this year was a lot better organized. They kind of learned a lot from their mistakes, and I mean, the judges were on point. Clocking was great. Um, didn't feel stressed at all. The environment was perfect. Everything was nice. The venue was nice. Yeah, I'm just feeling good and had a good
Hell yeah.
time.
Yeah. So, for those of you who didn't know, Brian had a crazy, crazy run at WCW and finished out as best world leader, which, I predicted it was going to be you or Ryan who took the crown. And I'm very glad one of you did. Otherwise, we'd be having pretty stern words in the back room. You get away with it this time, but, you're on tightrope for a little while. Obviously, best world leader, huge achievement, and your result was really exceptional as well. So big kudos for that. But what I want to ask you before we dive into all of that kind of stuff is for the people watching at home and for myself as well. How does WCW compare to, we'll say, one of your regular GTs or maybe a major that you might have attended? We'll say like you went to Adepticon and stuff. Would you rate this as like similar in that kind of category, or would you say it kind of goes above or below that kind of level?
Definitely very, 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 very above. I mean, every player in the room to earn the right to be in the room, you had to basically win a major or come very close to winning a major. There were some people, very few people that actually got golden tickets for, which I didn't know about till afterwards, but it's always up to the TO about who gets golden tickets and why. Some people were getting golden tickets for best painted and best sportsmanship, which
Oh wow.
I'd be like, sweet, that's awesome. I get to go to the world championship, but then you're the best painted guy in a pod. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna,
Mm,
you know where I'm going. You're gonna be the
yeah.
seal getting clubbed, but nobody in there
On
is
that
as
note, did you see the army that won best painted at WCW?
I did not get a chance.
Okay, but did you see any
Um,
pictures of it or anything like that?
no, I don't think I did.
Because I,
Um,
I want to shout it out. I know the guy who won Best Painted at WCW, and I know he watches the channel as well. It was one of the boys that I actually played at No Retreat this year, Travis, who had the custodes on like Griffhounds and stuff like that.
oh
It was an
yes.
incredible army. I actually sent him looking for you at the before round one because I knew I needed to get you kind of riled up and stuff. And I was like, go tell Brian about like how easy you think it is for world leaders to push through for Feel No Pains and how like wardens don't actually really represent a unit that's unbalanced or anything. He couldn't find you, but I, know that it came
It's
from the
because
heart. I was trying to get you in the right
it's because
mindset,
I'm short and hard to miss in that room, specifically with a lot of really, really tall
like
Europeans.
crawling under the tables, trying to avoid the custodes players. But yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I was not mentally I think I would have scooped rather than play a custody player. God, if it ended up being Folger and me on finals, it would have been the most toxic game you've ever
that would have been
seen.
pretty
It's a
toxic.
good
Yeah,
thing they leave it unmiked.
yeah.
But
But yeah, shout out to
again,
Travis for scooping best painting because
it,
it's a serious achievement.
And again, just to reiterate, that doesn't, when I'm saying like best painted, best sportsmanship being there, that doesn't necessarily mean everybody else has bad painted armies. Everybody, actually, my army was still below average for being painted. Um,
That's crazy when you think about it, because your army's quite nice.
I've been working on getting it pretty nice, and I'd say at a local GT, it's easily top five.
Mhm.
But here, no, it was like probably 100th, maybe if that, probably a little lower.
Yeah, people really bring
Um,
their A game to WCW from
yep,
what I've been told anyway, you know. So
yep.
it's I think it's really cool that, like, you know, obviously you have this like hyper competitive environment, but it seems to me, at least from the outside, that the mindset that people go in with is to have like a pretty chill time, and also just to bring really nice hobby standard as well, which is really cool. I really like that about the event.
Yeah, and like we were all talking about it as players too. Like as far as like playing by intent goes and like take backsies and like I scratch your back, you scratch mine, that was absolutely the attitude in the room. That nobody was there to win the championship, right? If it happened, it happened. Everybody was there to just have a good time and play very competitive, like tactical Warhammer, thinking out about how to outplay your opponent without gotching them. Communication was 100%. If you forgot to excuse me, if you forgot to consolidate or pile in, they'd let you. And that's not saying that like you're asking for takebacks necessarily. It's just the attitude there was not a gotcha environment at all, which was
Nice.
it's really nice knowing that like the other players also have like your opponent has your back while you're playing
Yeah,
them.
you're
That's
working
what it felt
together.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
absolutely.
Brilliant. So, for those people who aren't aware, the way the WCW works is it is broken up into a 4 day tournament. The first 2 days being a pod stage, where everyone is broken up into a variety of different pods, and you play through your pod. And then, depending on how you place in your pod, you're kind of put into a seed. So the top 16 go on to play basically the finals, and everyone else basically slugs it out in the hell pit. So you had a pretty competitive pod. Ryan was also in this pod. So
Yeah.
two world leaders, both bringing the RB2K, which I guess we should touch on. The RB2K being what we would consider the most competitive world leaders list at the minute, especially in the singles environment. I'll have that come up on screen. Is there anything you want to say about the RB2K before we move on from the list? We've talked about it ad nauseum in a variety of videos at this point, but it
Well,
really is the cutting edge of world leaders, as we currently see it anyway. Do you still feel that about the RB2K, or has it kind of lessened in your mind after WCW?
oh yeah, I think for the WCW meta, this was exactly the correct list to take. Um, for a lot of the problem armies that I knew were going to be there, Sisters Guard, Thousand Suns, right, GSC. Um, the extra units that are available to the RB2K really help shore up some of those matchups. Being able to actually score points while also being lethal, because you have to be able to be spread out against Sisters. They're just going to pick up X amount of units per turn, and having more units means you get to play the game longer, which means you get to score more, which means you get to spread out more, and that means you get to give your opponent more hard decisions. Like in a lot of cases, those Five Berserkers or the extra spawn unit, they were getting hit by Exorcists because they needed to slow my scoring down. And because they were eating flak, that meant Angron and the Exalted Eightbound got to go ham.
Mm.
Um,
And
Likewise, if the Exalt
you became intimately familiar with the sisters matchup by the end of the weekend, right?
I almost paired every single one in our pod, and I still was pairing them outside of the pod. And
No.
there weren't that many in the room. Like there was a lot, not enough for me to be pairing them as consistently as I was though. But that was just whatever.
So let's dive
Um,
into it, right? Why don't we talk about the rounds, and we'll start with the pods. Obviously, 4 games in the pod over 2 days. Pretty scary pod. Always a chance of playing against Ryan as well. So run me through it. Round one.
yeah.
What's up
So,
first?
so first the pods, they also encourage that you can't pair into your own country mates. Um, until it is unavoidable to. Like they won't pair up, pair down to avoid each other, but like in the finals, if it's two undefeated, they're going to make the two undefeated play. So at no point in time, like I was in a pod with John Lennon, at no point in time was I going to play John Lennon during the pod unless Americans just kept winning all the way up to the front, which actually kind of did happen, but we'll get into that. So first couple rounds, it was like guaranteed not to pair John Lennon, but it was very likely for me to pair Ryan. And unfortunately, that did not happen. As much as we'd like to have the Thunderdome of me versus Ryan, I feel like this is not the environment we wanted it to happen in
Yeah,
because
right.
we both wanted to support each other to get out of the pod. Like it
Hmm.
would have been absolutely fun for content, but neither of us wanted to play each other just because we knew it would be spoiling the other
Yeah.
players' chances. So my first opponent from Canada was Jack Morris on Triple Exorcist, Triple Castigator, and Double Immolator. And that was the list. No Vol, no Triumph, just whole spam sisters. And it was a meme of a time because they put us on GW Terrain Layout 7, which no one saw coming. And quick tangent, if you ask me, it's because GW was trying to hide the guard and sisters problem by giving the melee armies a chance. And that was
Right.
absolutely the attitude of the room. Everybody was like, oh, this is just them being able to say guard's not a problem. Spoiler alert, half of
Guard
top
is a
16 was
problem.
guard.
Yeah.
And without this, everybody was saying without terrain layout
16 of the
7 day
16 is
1,
guard.
it would have been, yeah, like
Yeah.
12. So, carrying
I
on.
think I counted it. There was three melee armies made it into the top 16. So guns still a problem.
Not, and it wasn't even melee armies. Like the Stormlance list still had three Gladiator Lancers and a Dreadnought, or
Mm.
Redemptor, I think. So, like, guns were definitely, gunline was definitely the theme of this event. Um, I don't think world leaders were well positioned in this meta, but we'll get into that as I start to explain some of these matchups. So, like I said, first matchup is against Sisters on Terrain Layout 7. We'll probably have like a picture or something come up with that layout because I know a lot of you are unfamiliar with GW layouts, and we're not going to show you every single one, but this by far is the wackiest of all of them.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Basically, like Tetris line towards each other. There's only like one and a half real firing lanes, and it's like an X going straight down the middle, but it's like the thinnest X ever. And I showed everybody a picture where I had my entire army lined up as close to a wall as possible, pretty much past the midway point of the board, able to just shoot straight into my opponent's line. This ended up being the ritual, which also what Terrain Layout 7 lets you do is drag the ritual objectives back into your own ruins
Nice.
and then keep dragging them into ruins. So if your opponent doesn't have melee units, they are never getting those objectives from you. You just get to have all the objectives you want. The other way around is that means I don't have to play on my side of the board at all. There is no incentive for me to stay in my own side of the board. One Jackal squad has it covered, man. He's just gonna sticky. He just went
Every
sticky
turn.
next. Yeah, it was
Build
sticky
sticky.
next,
Build
sticky
sticky.
next, sticky. Yep, you got it. And that meant I got to shove 1,935 points of my army as fast as possible into my opponent's deployment zone.
Mm.
And all I really had to do was knock him off a primary twice, objectives twice. Just knock him off of two objectives twice, and the game's over.
Yeah.
Which for world leaders isn't that hard. I think at one point in time, I literally shoved Angron so far up his deployment zone and didn't even declare a charge just because I knew he had to come out to those sightline angles and then he'd just die. I was like, yeah, Angron's gonna do nothing but die, and I'm fine with that. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't give him a single primary until turn 5, which I scored 100 points and pretty much just AFK'd. I was like, okay, man, I got my 100 points. Do what you need to do. I think this is enough. I'm gonna go buy you a beer and we're good.
Peace.
Train layout 7, guys.
Beautiful
Horrible,
thing.
horrible, horrible meme. But it is what it is. And I'm not gonna cry for anybody playing Triple Exorcist right now either. You know what you did. You're a bad person.
Yeah. Like, if you're on gunline, you know, sometimes
Gun
the layout will fuck you. Because, like, sometimes the layout fucks combat armies. So you just,
skew, yeah,
if you
skew
skew into
armies can
one
suffer.
phase, yeah, you're going to suffer. And look, it is what it is. Gunline has a good the vast majority of the time. So
And
suck it,
Jack was
gunline.
Jack was a good guy. He was very nice.
Yeah.
Um, couldn't say anything like better about him. Like he was Canadian. All Canadians are like stereotypically nice. Like that's just true.
Hmm.
Um, that also continues my trend of like relentlessly beating the crap out of Canadians for no reason and pairing into them nonstop. Like I just can't stop pairing into them. Because round two, coming up next, I pair into another Canadian. Which I know you go to Worlds to play against people from all across the world, and these people are an hour and a half away from me, but that's fine. Like, um,
I mean, Worlds was dominated by Canada and USA, though. It is
yeah, it was
the problem
150 players
with
combined.
Worlds, in my opinion, is that they twice in a row have held it in the US. I think they should alternate it between US and Europe because first time European people are kind of like, oh yeah, novelty. I'll go over again. But when you win a golden ticket in Europe for the second year, you're like, well, The first time did cost me like 2,000 euro, so probably
Nope.
a pass.
And that was
You know?
actually quite noticeable this time. We had
Yeah.
more players this time. I don't think the amount of Europeans dropped, but the amount of
The proportional
Canadians,
amount.
the proportion
Yeah.
changed wildly. There were a lot more Canadians this time, a lot more South Americans as well, which was nice to see.
I know there was no Irish people this year. And I think it's a mistake to constantly hold it in the US. I hope they change it. I don't know if they have any
I would love to
plans.
see it in London, do it in
Yeah,
Warhammer
just do it
World.
in London. I mean, or do it in Nottingham. Would be amazing. There is the potential for it, and I would like to see it change because it's becoming a little bit exclusive. I think in terms of like accessibility. But that's it's beside the point. Let's talk about round two.
All right, so round two, I actually paired into my roommate, not Ryan, but Ryan's friend from his same team, Nicholas Redford on Chaos Space Marines. Veterans of the Long War. His list is fairly standard as what a veteran's list would look like. The double oblit package, Chaos Lord with 5 Legionnaires, Chosen Bomb with Bile, and then a couple guns. He had one of each, a Predator Destructor, Forge Fiend, and a Vindicator. And that was the list. Cypher and sprinkle in a few little like Warp Talons and scoring units here and there. Again, layout 7. And he still kind of had a gunline army, but he did have the benefit of having indirect. And he kind of wanted to prevent me from being able to do what I did to my sister's opponent, which was get to the midpoint, bully him off the middle, and put all of the pressure in his deployment zone. So he gets first turn. He pushes up into the middle of the board, actually, lines up a bunch of screens and counter charges, and basically makes it so that if I want to charge his assets, I'm going to be charging straight into a gun line right behind it. And he did a very good job of that. Um, and veterans have a 6-inch reactive move too, which is incredibly obnoxious for me to handle. Game went back and forth, was very low scoring because of how he played that. We basically just kept trading small resources in the middle of the board. I had a really cool play where I was able to launch Angron into one unit, kill that unit with the Mo squad, and then Angron was able to pile past it into the Chosen brick. Angron
Oh,
only
nice.
kills 3 Chosen with the
Lucky.
strikes, and the Chosen kill him on the pick swing back.
Feels bad,
And
brother.
I thought the game was over. Still managed to claw it back just a little bit from Mo then proceeding. No, Mo got eviscerated. Mo killed one obliterator model. His Mo and his squad killed one obliterator model and died. The whole squad dead. And then Angron kills 3 Chosen and dies. All in the same turn.
Yeah, I can see how you thought that was over.
And I was like, oh, GG, bro. But I was able to just play the board position just a little bit better. Moved my jackals up, and I think the last turn of the game, he had Bile by himself, touching one objective, and a Chaos Sorcerer Lord by himself touching another objective. And I auto sixed Jackals up 14 inches and body blocked both objectives. They're my only models left on the board. He had the Forge Fiend left. He had the Vindicator left. He had multiple Legionary squads left. He had tabled me, but I controlled the middle of the board for so long. And on the last turn, he thought he could win. And he auto sixed these Jackals up, touched 2 objectives. The bottom of 4, so top of 5 rolls around. His primary's been denied.
Oh,
He
for
gets
fuck's
no
sake.
primary at all, just from one Jackal squad staring at his like 1,000 point of army. Obviously picks the Jackals up, and he needs to draw. He has 8 cards left in his deck. Current score is with the 2 secondaries he drew was me at 55, him at 54.
Oh, yucky.
And there was 1 card left in the deck that could bail him out, which was I want to say sabotage. He needed to draw not he needed to draw a 6 pointer. And I think he had to draw sabotage because he was in my backlines. So we run all the way across the room to Ryan with the 8 cards and make him draw it.
No way, really?
And he and he failed to draw it. So then all the blame was on Ryan, and we started
Nice, yeah.
flaming Ryan. I was like popping off at Ryan.
Yeah.
Nick was flaming Ryan. It was a good time. Final score ended up being 55-51.
Hmm. Very
Layout 7
close.
just forces weird things. Like I said, for World Leaders to win on that layout, our strength is to just shove straight into the middle. Even if I got a little unlucky, it was fine. All I had to do was hold points, and that's what happened.
Fantastic.
Um,
So day one, you're 2-0, feeling quite nice, I guess. I mean, you're still facing into 6 games, so you can't be too confident, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, everybody here's won an event to get here. So just because you're 2-0 and you're playing somebody else, or even if you lose, if you're 0-2, you're still playing monsters. Like Kyle Grundy, the top ITC player in the world, finished pod stage 1 and 3. So just
Yeah.
because you're in the 1 and 3 bracket, I'm not flaming Kyle. I'm saying just because you're in the 1 and 3 bracket doesn't mean you're safe. Same thing. I think Jack Harpster and Nick Nanavati, they were all 2 and 2. So just because you're losing or does not mean it's gonna get any easier.
So round three.
Round three, I get paired. This is when they shift terrain layouts again. So we go from probably the most favorable melee terrain layout to the one of the least favorable melee terrain layouts. And I end up getting put on terrain layout 2. And this time I'm paired into triple exorcist, triple castigator, double immolator, and Morven Vol brick. The army. Um, this was against Matthew Dean from Australia. It was really cool to get to play against an Aussie. It's really rare that they actually can make the flight over because that's
Yeah,
like
that's a lot.
Australia to Atlanta is I think more than 24 hours of flying,
Probably.
which is ridiculous. Very sweet dude. We had a very clean game. Um, I want to say the mission was Scorched Earth. That sounds correct. Um, and the game starts with him trying to pop an angle on Angron. I lose first turn. I don't think I went first at all this event. I legitimately don't think I went first once. And it kind of sucked because the best way to beat these gunline armies is to just get up in their grill as fast as possible and keep the exorcists from shooting you more than once. Like you, because your go turn's turn two, because they're going to hide from you, and you don't want them to be top of one and top of two because that means by your go turn they've shot you
Yeah,
twice.
got like 2 rounds of
So
shooting into. Yeah.
I'm getting lit up basically. Um, the spawn and five berserkers pop off here a little bit. I mean, they run out and do scoring, and I make sure I send them out to go start doing the scoring the same time I start launching my stuff forward. And I think I sent a picture to the boys about this game where
I believe you did.
I was like, hey guy, you're like, hey Brian, how's it going? And I was like, I don't know, my whole army's in his deployment zone and it's turn two. So how'd that happen? He put out a bait for Angron and he put out a bait in the middle of the board. I think he put an immolator in the middle of the board and he put a castigate, two castigators and a exorcist that had a line of sight on Angron, turn one. So all the hunter killer missiles came flying down at Angron. There was nowhere to hide them, turn one. The castigators pumped into Angron. They actually only managed to do like 2 or 3 damage. They're wounding on fives. They're AP1. I have cover. It was the hunter killers I was scared of, but I managed to save those. I even CP rerolled, I think, a save roll. So what I wanted to prevent in this game was him being able to play a 5-turn game. That's what Triple Exorcist wants more than anything else is to be able to shoot their Exorcist 15 times. Um, and I was just looking at the board and I was like, I don't think you can kill more than half of my army in 1 turn, bro. And he looked at me and he's like, I don't think so either. Then I was
Well,
like,
that's a bit of
okay.
a bet moment.
And I was like, okay. So I put my entire army in the middle of the board. I was like, and I was like, you better kill it or it's in your deployment zone next turn. So Mo and 10, 8 bound, charged, one casting or charged the immolator in the middle, just eviscerated it. Angron charged the one of the castigators at the end that because I said he popped out the two and the other to get shot an angle on Angron. He went and popped a castigator by himself, and I managed to pull off what I call the slingshot maneuver with some exalted 8 bound off of that same castigator, I think. Um, which is where you intentionally line your models up so that when you roll a good charge, not all of the models can base. Because the rules for charging say that you must end closer than you started if you can't base. That means is you can move sideways or past what you charged as long as you can't base it. So I used Invocatus to body block my Exalted 8 bound. I lined my Exalted 8 bound up in such a way that only one could make it into base to base contact and the rest could rush forward. And what that allowed me to do was actually pile the Exalted into another castigator that was like 20 inches away. I rolled like a 10 on the charge, and the Exalted 8 bound moved 10 straight forward past the castigator that they actually charged, and they were able to pile into two. So
Nice.
when the one got popped,
That's
all
good.
6 Exalted basically made a 20-inch charge into more vehicles. Turns over. I failed to kill the other one, so I killed like I think 2 Immolators and 1 Castigator in that turn. And I looked at him and I said, you better kill a critical mass of my army or you just lose. And I was set up in a way Morven was in reserves. When Morven came down, Morven actually didn't have optimal shooting. Only like two of the guns could shoot. Unloads into my whole army. And like I said, I think the Exalted 8-bound get picked up. I think one of the 8-bound squads gets picked up. And I think Angron survives and gets put to like 5 wounds, which was fantastic for me because I then rapid ingress the third Exalted 8-bound and I just shove further in. Um, my Mo pops off for the first and only time in this event, picks up a Exorcist by himself. He just
Oh,
rolls like
wow.
four natty sixes on the dev wounds, and I was like,
Yeah, I
oh, that's
love to see it.
unexpected. Picks it up. Angron picked up the next castigator. The three Exalted 8-bound are now in his deployment zone. I've taken his home objective from him. He's just left with like two, I think, just Morven Vol squad and two Exorcists. Angron does eventually get picked up off the board. Um, and he didn't have enough shooting to kill Mo's squad at that point. And he looked at me and he was like, should I charge Mo with Morven and the three suits? Do you think that will end well for me? Like in a serious context. And I was like, no, don't. And he found a way to do it to get around fights first, where he charged actually Angron with the suits and spaced them out in a way so that they all couldn't base, and then he piled into Mo. I didn't have heroic intervene, so that's just what he did. What he didn't do is he didn't have a CP for precision. So he only got Vol +1 to swing into the squad. Killed like 5 berserkers, but then O +5, picked Vol and like 2 suits up, and we called the game there pretty much.
Yep,
I think Angron even revived just for the BM too.
of course. Yeah.
Um, but he wasn't necessary. I think he came down and did recover assets or something.
Oh, love to see it.
Um,
Job Ron when he comes back.
go do your chores, idiot. Final
Nothing
score,
like a late game Ron drop in, do sabotage in the enemy deployment zone.
and like I said, final score 89-59. And as I was saying earlier, I think the key to beating this matchup is I think world leaders are actually favored into whole spam sisters. You
Hmm.
just have to give them too many hard decisions, right? The
You can't kill them
Exorcists,
all.
yeah, the Exorcists want to be shooting your Exalted 8-bound. They want to be shooting that. And even then, your Exalted can scam them because it's fives on fives with a 5-up Feel No Pain. But if you just start like starting random, like, I'm going to start sabotage with these spawn over here. How are they going to stop sabotage? They can't unless they're putting Exorcist Fire into it. So you kind of just get free points. If you're having 8-bound do sabotage, yeah, they'll gladly shoot it, right? But now that they're shooting spawn, you could sink resources there. Or if Angron is so aggressively pushed up that they have to shoot him, it's going to take their whole army to do it. They're wounding on fives. They can only miracle dice so many times. I know even for sisters right now, they get 1 million. So that was kind of my
Makes
takeaway
sense.
from that. So
Nice.
second time playing sisters in three
Second
days.
Sister Skull, yeah, we'll have more. So, you know, obviously 3-0 going into what is technically the last round of the pod. Imagine you're feeling a little bit nervous at this point, right?
Yep, I'm 3-0. I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited that I'm about to leave my pod. And I'm not gonna lie, I was tracking Lennon's progress the whole time. Because I was hoping somebody would take him out. If somebody took him out, then I wouldn't have to do a shout around. That was all I was thinking about right now. And there were three Americans that were undefeated, and that was it at this point. It was me, Lennon, Moore. We knew that because of how I said like they would force 2 Americans play, so 2 Americans did end up playing. I think it was Moore and Lennon, I believe.
Well, you pared down,
Uh,
right?
and I got the pair down, yes.
Yeah.
But again, a pair down doesn't mean much.
Well, it doesn't mean anything, but I like how you're like, oh, there was 3 Americans undefeated, and I believe Lennon and Moore played. I'm like, well, you were the other one, so
I was just thinking,
like,
well, they did some weird stuff towards the end too,
right.
so I wasn't completely on top of his pairings. So I get paired into Taroxer El Rojo, from Spain, which for those of you who don't know, he's one of the best Thousand Suns players on the planet. At one point in time, he was leading ITC. Um,
Funny Magic Man.
Funny Magic Man. And you know what? The Funny Magic Man, twice at this event, I played two Funny Magic Men, and both of them, and this isn't a gotcha, both of them looked at me in the middle of their movement, or at the end of their movement phase, and said, I don't think it's possible for Angron to end in combat with me.
Whether
Angron
you
ended in
are,
combat at the bottom of both, or ended the first turn in both of those games in combat with Magnus swinging at him. That
they
wasn't gotchaing him.
always, they just always make the mistakes. Like it's, yeah.
And it wasn't like it was obvious plays, like it was really weird plays that I had to do to get around it.
Mm-hmm.
It involved me charging the screen, hopping the screen, basing in such a way that I could clear I had to clear a screen. So I had to get Angron to hop a screen, clear a screen, clear another screen, and then pile in. So like three things had to happen, and I had to set all of that up to happen, which were not incredibly easy for him to prevent. But in his mind, he was like, Angron's more than what I could move 20 plus 12. Angron was more than 32 inches away from Magnus, so in his mind, he thought Magnus was safe. Turns out I can move way faster than that, even if my movement value is only 20, which is what I took advantage of a lot in this game, where I would use my charge rolls as extra movement and use my pile-in as even more movement to be able to get to where I wanted to go by just ping-ponging off of different units. Um, this game starts with me, like I was saying. He set up this elaborate play where he could double screen Magnus to get Magnus's wingtip to see around a Bruin to snipe 8-bound with Doom Bolts from downrange. I was like, whatever. Like he double moved Magnus, he double moved Cultists, and he Doom Bolted me. And I was like, wow, that hurts. And picked up the whole squad of just 3 8-bound. And I was like, it is what it is. You can't really hide from Magnus turn one.
You
The
can't run
dude
from
can
God.
Yeah, the dude moves 36 inches and his wings are 5 inches long and he'll rotate and just EQ with his wing. It's the most bullshit thing ever. I hate getting shot by the tip of wings. It's
Yeah, it's rough.
bullshit. Six exalted 8-bound charge up. Crack a rhino that had the Vortex of Hell man in there. The Arcane Vortex, Infernal Master.
Infernal
Pick up
dude is just the
Yeah,
easy way.
10
Yeah.
pick up 10 cultists, and then I pile into the Infernal dude. I wanted to make sure in both of my matchups against Thousand Sons, I make sure that dude cannot shoot me ever. I don't want that
Ever.
thing
Yeah.
ever
He
shooting
shoots
at me.
once and it can
He's like
cripple you.
Mo in shooting, which is
He
fucked
is.
up to
He
say.
is
And he's
better than Mo
cheaper.
in
He's
shooting. Yeah.
cheaper. What is
He's
this? I mean, I think this is the time when Roberts walked by and I was like, leave my Mo alone. And I think I don't know if that was a good decision, guys.
Look, we're putting it
Uh,
on record now that you did say that, so whatever happens, whatever happens, happens.
happens,
But
happens. And then the
no.
six exalted 8-bound make it up one side of the board. Other side of the board, we wipe those screens, like I said. Angron is in combat with Magnus now, and I roll my dice to swing on Angron, or swing on Magnus with Angron. I do approximately 0 damage.
I am so unsurprised.
Magnus then takes offense to Angron's presence and smacks him in the mouth for 15. And
This
I was
is
like,
like, dude, this is like every fucking time. And it doesn't matter who I talk to, it doesn't matter if it's me, if it's you, if it's blah, blah, blah. It's always the same conversation. And then I charged Angron into Magnus, and then he did no damage. And then Magnus swung back and put Angron in the sin bin. It's like, guys, we've run the simulation enough times now. We know how it
he lo
fucking goes. You want to kill
and I'm just
Magnus? You send in Mo.
and I'm just sitting there and I was like, I set up this elaborate play for nothing. That was just what I'm looking at right
Temper
now.
tantrum under the table kind of a vibe.
I was like, "Eh." And then like, so the battle round starts again. Mo's pushed up in the middle of the board, and at this point, I'm feeling behind. Um, the six exalted 8-bound end up living through a Doom Bolt, Ahriman plus 10 flamers, and more. Like,
That's
just
pretty
like
good.
the feel no pains just popped off. Angron, of course, eats shit and dies. I think he just takes a Doom Bolt to the face and falls over dead, like the Family Guy pose. It's just,
Oh, fucking
um,
Angron. He's so bad at Thousand Suns.
and a Mutalith Beast comes out of nowhere, picks up I think I threw 8-bound to clear this cultist screen on that side of the board. So all of my 8-bound are dead. All of my regular 8-bound are dead. The Exalted 8-bound are knocked down to like 3 models. I have 3 Exalted 8-bound that I ingressed behind him. And then I have Mo and Spawn and 20 Jackals against his entire army.
Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad, dude.
And then I was just
Uh,
like, you know what? I'm throwing the kitchen sink at you. I roll advance and charge and I pick +2 to move. And I pull up the rest of my jackals. The 20 jackals come up with a vengeance, with a fucking vengeance. Um, Mo gets out of his wagon and goes and punks the Mutalith Vortex beast that was on that side objective. Um, the 20 jackals come up and they both bank 10-inch charges straight into his army,
nice.
disrupting it. Yeah, they charge straight into the middle of the board into just 5 lone rubrics. They like clean them up too, weirdly.
Oh, that is
Um,
fun.
the spawn and come up the other side of the board and they bank a 9-inch charge straight into the infernal vor or the arcane vortex dude, the idiot. Um, to prevent the overwatch because he wanted to overwatch the exalted ape on that were just standing still waiting for friends to make charges. So I managed in that turn to pick up, like, to make contact with Ahriman's squad, so he can't shoot on his turn. I pick up the Infernal Master +5. I pick up another Exalted Sorcerer with Jackals, and I pick up even more Rubrics with more Jackals. So all that's left on his side of the board actually now is the Ahriman squad and Magnus. And it seemed like the game was going so downhill for me, but all of my trash just pulled through, and it was just like I was beating.
Suddenly,
I was just like throwing.
magic mortal men.
Oh, I just went like it was like the pocket sand meme. It was just like
Yeah.
ugh. And all I was trying to do was, again, stall the game and score points. And now, like, what are you gonna do? Doombolt Jackal's fucking bet, bro. Like, come at me. That's what I want.
Some of
And
these
then
guys will live through a 5-up shrug.
and yeah, and I was like, I'm on 5-up Feel No Pain Simulator right now. How about you?
Yeah.
And Mo does end up cleaving Magnus down because he's left where he's like, I can't score primary anymore until I get rid of this stupid idiot with his dumb axe. And Magnus shoots into it, doesn't do enough to kill enough guys. Magnus charges it, doesn't die, but doesn't not kill enough guys because he didn't have CP for precision. So Mo like chops Magnus's leg off, goes back to my turn and chops the other one off and kills him, and
Yeah,
the
you
game's
should have
over.
done gory dismemberment. That's what you do when Mo kills Magnus.
But but that was the whole game, and I really don't think the matchup's that bad, even though I had like,
No, T-Sons is like, I would say unless there's like a substantial skill differential. If player skill is equal, I think it's world leader favored.
and all you have to do is take their trash away
Mm.
and start touching their stuff. Like that's
Just
all I had to
don't
do.
don't
Like,
charge Angron into Magnus. It's like the main thing you don't do.
well, I was like, in my brain, I was like, if I pull this off, like every time, and I do it again, I do
You're
it again
you're
later
gonna
this
do it
event.
again. You never pull it off. He blanks like 3 saves. Like it's just never happening. You know.
And for me, it's like if he dies turn one, game's over. And
Sure, but he never
also,
will.
also, my other logic for it is yes, Angron does not win that duel. Angron shouldn't die in that duel. Shouldn't
He
even
he
come
takes enough
close.
damage to die in the following shooting phase.
Correct, which is what I want. I want, I
You're
want,
changing you're changing your narrative, Brian. You want to kill Magnus. Now you're
I
like, I
want.
just want Angron to
No, no, no,
survive
no,
the
no, no.
clapback.
Killing Magnus is like the game over condition. What my actual thought process was is I don't want the Doom Bolts flying anywhere other than Magnus. Or I don't want them flying anywhere other than into Angron, right? I want Angron eating all of the heat because the other player also sees the same thing. He sees if Magnus dies, he loses the game. I see if Angron dies, I'm just used to this happening anyways, and I'm going to win anyways, and I could scam him. Like I just want to leave the option for scamming, and I'm fine with the Thousand Suns player putting two Doom Bolts into Angron, shooting into Angron, and swinging. Like that's what I want, and that's what kind of happened. So,
I don't
uh,
hate it, but if you want a job done right, you send in Funny Man with the axe.
well, Funny Man with Axe can't move 30 inches in charge.
Not with that attitude. You could just cheat. It's
Yeah,
like,
you could just cheat. Yes, you've
bro, it's
heard it
easy.
here first. The TRP special.
Why not cheat?
Uh, so game
Okay,
ends 91-51. Basically, the game came down to he couldn't score enough primary. Jackals just kept being
that's a
nuisance
substantial
squads.
score difference for the way that you told that game. But yeah, fair
Well,
enough.
well, how the game started was me shoving him off a primary and keeping that shove going even with the trash.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
makes
five
sense.
Zerkers popped off in that. I think they just went around decapitating random Thousand Suns characters.
Five
They were
Zerg,
just on a side quest to kill nerds.
it's just so good. Five Zerg, so good. Okay, so you're 4-0 in the pod stage, which means you are being shadow rounded. For anyone who doesn't know, shadow round is when you have two undefeated players in the pod, only one can progress. So you play this magical round called the shadow round. It happens late at night in a dark room, a dungeon, perhaps. I think all of these things are correct. So shadow rounds are rough, Brian. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, not only do I have to play a shadow round, I have to play a shadow round with who I would say is arguably the best player in the world, John Lennon, who's playing probably at this point, I would say our hardest matchup, like hands down, hardest matchup. Um, Aquilons, even after the nerf, are still fucked up, and I hate them with every fiber of my body. I didn't play perfectly, but it really felt like the only win condition I had was to go first and charge him with 6 units turn one. I did not go first, He went first, and Aquilons were in my deployment zone so fucking fast. Obviously not turn one, but top of two. That was just what I was getting set up for. Um, I just want to quickly say right now, John Lennon, all the rumors you've heard about him being like the most fabulous person ever to play are completely true. This was the easiest game of Warhammer I've ever played, not from the aspect of like winning or losing, just from like how transparent everything was, how like fluid everything was, how trusting I was, and like
That's awesome though,
how
because like
honest and
especially like,
straightforward he was. It was such a nice game.
and for like the shadow round as well, to have such a good opponent is pretty good, right? Because like that's like you're tired, you kind of want your opponent to be like on your side and like working together to play the game
Yeah,
because
and it
it's an
it felt
intense
like we were on the
environment.
same side. Like it
Yeah.
really felt like we both kind of knew the result going into the game. And that's not me being defeatist. That's not me saying the matchup is unwinnable. But triple hydras are just kind of a nightmare to deal with. The game starts with him shoving three hydras up into the middle objectives. It's taken hold, and then he just stares at me. And I challenge the world leader community to find out what's the best answer for that, because there isn't a good one. Either A, you go send five berserkers out to out OC it and you stare at it. Maybe you charge it, try to get lucky with five berserkers. They're not killing it. They have three OC, so spawn aren't out OCing it, so you can't charge it, just spawn out to do it. You're left with a few decisions. Now you have eight bound charging out to kill them. That's
Also might
130,
not do it.
140 point unit. They should actually plus one wound. They're only T9, so you're wounding on twos with the big weapon. Which I do end up making that decision because I can't just let John score primary, right? I cannot let him have these points. So my goal was to go out and tie him on primary and maybe take two Hydras turn one. So I send one squad of 8 bound with plus one to wound up to kill one Hydra. They do it perfectly. Overkill it. I think Sergeant does it by himself. Um, and I send five Berserkers and Spawn to go kill another one. I toss grenades with the five Berserkers, deal four mortals. I'm like, sweet, that's like more than enough. Five Berserkers with Spawn could probably kill it. Worst case scenario, I still own the objective and I'm denying primary. Berserkers fail a 5-inch charge. I have no CP because I spent it on grenades.
Ah.
Spawn make the charge. One successful wound, which he saves. So not only do I not kill the
Don't even
Hydra,
hold a
but
point.
I don't even hold the point. And I'm like, motherfucker, just like I'm down 2 CP, and that's that. And there's a third Hydra in the middle of the board, and I just had to let it stay there. I didn't feel comfortable sending the second squad of 8 bound out to die. I could have sent Angron, which was like try to scam him into living, but I didn't feel, I felt like I wanted to win the game the next turn, force the next wave to come forward and wipe it. Well, he didn't have to because the Hydra got to stand still. There are now Aquilons in my back line. They picked up all of my Jackals instantly.
Oh
I have
wow, that's
no
rough.
idea how to respond to that because I'm like, I can't turn around to get them. So I guess this is their house now, is basically my thought process, which put me in this dilemma of I guess I charged forward into the Lehman Rush shooting line. And trust me, guys, it didn't go well. I am not gold. I am not T6. I don't have a 2 up, 4 up with minus 1 to wound and a 4 up feel no pain. I have none of those attributes, and it went exactly as you'd expect. I just got blasted apart. Um, I could have just sat in my deployment zone, but the Aquilons would have just kept, he would have rebought them. They would have come back down, and I would have just been stuck chasing them. The Scions then came down in the back line and blew up a big threat back there, so I just sent another threat back there. And I think I just looked at him with my hand out. I was like, I can't play this game, bro. Like, Angron got taken down by like a Hydra and a Russ, and that really just like hurt my heart. Like, it's wounding on fives, and it killed Angron, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, come on.
Oh,
And it was just like, I don't know. Matchup seems rough. I really feel like that army is unfair to play against. Um, Nothing should be that oppressive in the backfield as Aquilons are. Um, I
Aquilons
really
are
hope
fucked.
I really hope they get looked at in some way because points don't fix them. Lennon was saying like he played them at like 120 or something or another. I think it might have been somebody else, but like yeah, you play them at 120, 130. They're
Because they're what now, like
so
80 or something?
nine. I think they're 80 or 90, but they're
Yeah.
just so oppressive. You really can't do anything about them as a world leader player.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
Other
they're
armies can
they're
handle it.
disproportionately oppressive against like mono melee.
Correct. Scions are also a hell of a squad.
Oh yeah.
Um, I did manage to surprise him with, like I said, the slingshot maneuver. 8 bound ended up charging that one Hydra that lived, or the exalted 8 bound charged the one Hydra that lived, but slingshot straight back into his back deployment zone. Um, and actually tied up a Chimera, which failed its leadership check. And I was like, oh boy, I have six Exalted 8-bound that are alive only because they cannot physically be shot by anything. Everything else was dead. I think Mo was still in his car, and I still conceded. I think I had six Exalted 8-bound and Mo plus 10 left, and that was it on the board.
Oh, that's so rough.
And that was like top of three, I think is when I called it.
Oh, my heart. My heart bleeds.
There was nothing to do. Like I really like
No, I
challenged world
know.
leaders to come up with a better solution for that triple Hydra nonsense.
Bring Force
80
Fiends.
points for that hole. Maybe, bro, but I
I
don't think a
mean,
force.
genuinely, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But that's how that game went.
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed. Like I said, Land's the best player on the planet, and that matchup's abysmal. Um, and I gained a lot of respect for him coming out of that game too. Like, and
Well,
don't yell at anybody for taking any army to WCW. It's WCW. Take the best army you can.
yeah, for real.
World leaders were not positioned to do super well here, so my expectation was never to make top cut. So I was not disappointed conceding that early.
But if world leaders are toxic, broken, good, you would take them to WCW because
Correct, because I'm a world leader,
that's what you want to
and
do. Yeah.
some people want to win WCW, and they should not be shamed for trying to be the best in the world.
Yeah, let's be real,
So
folks.
like,
Like, no hate ever.
I
Like,
think you can hate on the army, don't hate on the player.
I think
Astronaut
the
arms,
only army
fuck.
you can like hate on regardless is like Tau. That's one where I'm like, yeah.
Triple Exos are there for me too. I feel like
I don't know, man. They're so pretty looking, you know.
they are pretty looking, but like somewhere out there in that event, an Exo player rolled 666 for number of shots, all hit, all wounded, and blew their opponent off the table turn one. And that probably happened. And they should feel bad for what they did.
All I'm
But
saying is like, if someone rocks up, some white-haired lady rocks up in a tank, hits a sick riff on a piano, and a missile lands on my head because of it. Like, there's worse ways to go out.
the part that confuses me is the missiles aren't blasts, so if you tag them in combat, they can shoot you.
Yeah,
Straight
wasn't it? There
direct.
was like
It's like,
definitely a
"Boo."
period of time where they were like flamer missiles and they like ignored all the penalties to indirect as well, the like conflagration ones. I think they got changed, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, you lose the shadow rounds, you lose my love, which was not really there in the first place, but you gain my hatred, which wasn't there. You must have been exhausted after that though.
Yeah, that was 4-0, and that was these rounds are 4 hours apiece. And the judges, I had like 10 judges around me. There were all like a dozen, 2 dozen people watching the game too, which was annoying, but like is what it is. It felt like I was telling a few times at this event I had to tell people to like go away in a
Hmm.
polite way, but like there were definitely people that were
Too
more
close.
involved in the game than the players were. And it
Hmm.
was like I would be like, come on guys, like give me some space. But
Personal space is important at the table. Watch from afar, by all means, but
so
yeah.
we're knocked out of the top bracket. Solid 4-0. 4-0.
Yeah, because like Shadowrun doesn't count towards the tournament, so defeated and yet undefeated is
So
Brian.
so now my brain was just like, now I want to be the funny guy in the room. There's only going to be two 8-0 people in this room, and it's going to be
Yeah.
me and the guy who won the event, right? That's my goal.
If you had managed that, I would have put the like the thumbnail would have just been like undefeated, but the un in brackets. Anyway,
But I mean, yeah. So it was they put me in the 3-1 bracket with all the 3-1 players, and like we were joking at the table. I was like, yeah, like. Yeah, what's it? I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me, meme. Just like the brackets can't save you from me. And we were just hyping it up.
uh,
Like I was like the big shark in the tank. Everybody's getting the pair up into me. And I was like, that's what I was like.
but you
I had
kind
to
of love
hype my
that
ego
energy,
up.
though. You know, like that kind of a vibe will like bring you back from like not making top 16,
Oh, and I
right?
forgot to mention. Oh, let me get the. Give me 1 second. I got something to show the
Okay,
class.
we'll cut. All right, I'll clap us back in. What the fuck?
No, that was for the. No, you're not clapping us back in. That
I
was
clapped
the.
us back in.
Trying to fit
What
this thing
is
on.
that? A sweet corn hat?
No, are we back in? Are we
We're
live?
in. We're in. This is
Oh,
going.
okay.
This might be
Okay,
the
well,
cold open.
this might be the. Oh, okay. So, one of my good friends from Canada, Nick J. I mean, good friends. I played him a few times. We've had very good games. Very nice player. I'd argue one of the best players in Canada. One of the best guard players in Canada. And he's openly come out and said Aquilons deserve to die. So I respect him infinitely more. He told me before the event he had a hat for me that was infused with the power of Khorne. And I thought he was going to give me like, I don't know, a world leader hat. And then he just gave me this hat. And the only time that I ever didn't win a game were because I was not wearing the hat.
Fair.
After my game with Lennon and my next game, which we're going to get into, um, against Zach Point, who's actually one of the top players in the US. I think he's ranked right there with me. So like I said, I was joking about like the oh, everybody's paired up into me. I'm just hyping myself up, guys. Obviously, we're at WCW. If we're in the 3-1 bracket. That means people have a positive win rate so far out of pools in the hardest event in the world. All of these players are good. And this was like the weirdest game of Warhammer I've ever played.
Was this your
Um,
draw?
yeah, this is the 40-40
Dude,
draw.
I need to hear about. You didn't tell me anything about this game. This was fucked.
Game starts with him shoving an immolator up, taking some pot shots at 8-bound, killing 2 out of the 3, not killing the squad, and he shoves up and he controls both of like the corner objectives, not the middle. No, I think he puts some like dominions in the middle and just stares at me. This list was Sisters again, triple castigator, triple immolator, no exorcists, Vol, and Triumph, which I think is the hardest. I think Sisters is a very bad matchup for us. I'm just of the opinion that the whole spam exorcist list is the other way around. As soon as they like get those infantry squads in front of us, get that cheap scoring up going, um, immolator bullshit, Vol bullshit, Triumph bullshit, that's very challenging for us to chew through, because they can just stack a lot of things together. Um, Game starts with me looking at 2 immolators on the board, some dominions, and I'm like, okay, I just need to clear those and reset because I just needed to use the 5 berserkers, get out there, clear the trash, make way so that Mo, the 6 exalted Ape-on, and Angron can get in there and wreck house the next turn. That's all I want. Well, I line up 3 4-inch charges on an extra or on the immolator that came down. I was sending Invocatus, 5 berserkers, and the 1 remaining Ape-on, and I was like, this should be more than enough to kill an immolator because the 8-bound and the berserkers will get it below half, and then Invocatus will have full rerolls to wound, fishing for dev. I was like, yeah, this is more than enough to clear this shit. I only make 2 of the 3 charges. I CP reroll, fail a 4-inch charge twice on a CP reroll, fail to get in there with Invocatus. The thing lives at like 1 wound, I think. On the other side of the board, I spawn jackals go out, clear the dominions and battle sisters in the middle of the board. Um, I send 8-bound up also to try to clear the other immolator with +1 to wound. Well, I didn't have +1 to wound because I had to use it for the CP reroll for the 4-inch charge. So I did not get +1 to wound. I did not get Invocatus into combat, even though I CP rerolled it. And I left both immolators alive and only killed maybe 60 points of sisters. And I have 2 8-bound on the board out in the open, Invocatus out in the open, Jackals out in the open, and 5 Berserkers out in the open. So like 600 points in my army.
That ain't it, brother.
I at least have control of primary, is what I'm thinking to myself.
Sure. Poke
Sure.
harder.
Yeah, I know. He responds in kind and just cleanly picks all that shit up, and we restart. Is about how that went. Um, and the rest of the game goes with me moving my Doom bricks now around the board. Celestine's now in my backlines too for some reason. Gets in a fight with Jackals, and that fight just lasts forever. I really don't like her. I don't think she's that good, but I think if he had like 140 points of something else, he probably would have had me. Um, so I end up doing this complicated charge. I put 6 exalted 8-bound, Mo in 10, and Angron all into the same Dominion squad in the middle of the board, and that's like it.
What the fuck?
Just like 5 Dominions. And I kill, pile through, kill, pile through, kill, pile in. And that's what I did. And I popped, I think on that turn, a Castigator, an Immolator, the 5 Dominions, and then I think I got another Immolator, the 3 Exalted Ape on the Deep Strike 10, put a Castigator down to 1 wound, which then failed to fall back, so it was stuck in combat with Terror. So he was pretty much left with just the Triumph, like a final Castigator and the Morven Volbrick, and then I think it was off in the corner where I said that Invocatus debacle happened. I kind of just let him have that corner. I was like, fuck it, I can't take that back. That you just live there now. So that Immolator plus some Dominion Sisters were down there. But now he's sitting there, and he's same problem I say sisters struggle with is they actually are, I feel like are unable to deal. They don't deal that much damage. They're good at blowing things up, but they're not good at blowing everything up, if that makes sense, right? Like they're
They
only
can hard
AP1 on,
focus, but they can't like roundhouse kick
yeah,
your entire army.
right. And Exalted Apound are such a good damage sponge for that shit too.
Oh, so good.
all that
So,
3 damage coming into them, even the Melta shots with the 5-up invulns, you just get a little hot with dice on your invulns, and you feel no pains, and you're just living through that stuff. Angron does end up coming down, but Mo is left with 5. The Exalted 8-bound bricks at 4, and the 3-man Exalted 8-bound on the other side is still alive. And now we go into my turn. Um, the three Exalted pick up the Castigator that was at 1 wound that failed to fall back. 6 Exalted picked up a Immolator in their turn as well because that also failed to fall back in that turn. Um, and I moved the Exalted 8-bound in such a way that they could go for like a 5-inch charge on Morven through a wall to keep her from overwatching Mo, who's standing directly in front of her. And then Mo proceeded to clap the cheeks off of Morven. Then the Exalted 8-bound piled back into the Triumph, and I took the Triumph. Um, Neither of us were focused on playing the game. We just were trying to kill each other as fast as possible. So neither of us were really scoring. I couldn't, I just abandoned. I abandoned standing on circles because I had nothing to stand on circles with. Um, and I focused only on knocking him off of circles. And as soon as I knocked him off a circle, I went to knock him off the next circle and I didn't stay. So that's how that game stayed such a low scoring game. Is I just kept running around chasing his stuff. And I ended the game about to win, actually.
oh
Uh,
no.
it was 40 to him, 40 to me, and I just had to find a few more points. And the only way I could get those points is if I had 1 unit live through this turn. We had Celestine on one side of the board and engagement with a Rhino because I auto-C'd him on the objective with the Rhino. Yes, Celestine's squad has 3 OC, but I actually tagged the squad with the butt of the Rhino so that they could only fall back onto the objective to get their models onto it. So he wasn't standing on the objective fully. So the Rhino was out, or at least tied on that objective. So I denied him primary on that
Toxic.
objective. I slingshotted Mo across the board. There was like a Castigator here and Dominion's like up here. Mo was like down here. Same thing. Did the slingshot maneuver. The Berserkers went up, piled onto the objective, out of seed. I just denied him on every primary. And then the 3 Exalted 8-bound left. There were only 3 left. We're touching another Castigator. All I needed was one of those squads to live. And Celestine with 5 damage to attacks and like one little girl with a power sword manages to kill a Rhino from full to dead.
Nice. Let's go. Let's go,
And
Celestine. Hell
And
yeah.
I was like, motherfucker. And I like had a feel no pain too. She was wounding on 5, or she was wounding on 5s, and she just went 6, 6, 5, 5, miracle die, 6, AP3. And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, it's okay. I have feel no pains. Roll them all. Not a single 6. I was like, fuck. And I was like, no. And then on the other side of the board, I go to ground with some exalted 8-bound into a castigator that's hitting on 4, shooting into my face. Didn't make a single invuln, didn't make a single 5-up feel no pain. They all got picked up. And then of course I'm just looking at Mo and I was like, bro, sticky objective. I guess I don't care anymore. And it was just Mo left. And I end the game on a 40-40 draw on like astronomical odds that that Rhino died. It died. And I did misplay a little bit. I could have sequenced my CP so that I would be -1 damage to Celestine, I guess. Like if I didn't go to
I
ground, I
feel
could have
like you
-1 damage
probably
to
shouldn't
Celestine.
have needed the -1 damage, but here
Exactly.
we
That
are.
wasn't even a thought. I was like, oh, she can do at most 10 damage. At least I get 10 to see 10 feel no pains if you miraculously all hit all wounded.
Yeah. These things happen.
So, got a 40-40 draw.
Wild.
Um,
Is what it is, I
got him.
think. Got
And the
him.
whole time I was like, Angron better revive. Angron better revive. Didn't happen.
Ron staying in the warp as is his way. Fair enough. Okay, so that was round
5.
5, technically.
Yep. So now we're
Yeah,
4-0 and
sure.
1. The dream
Cool.
isn't dead. We can still be undefeated.
Technically,
Though
yes.
we can
dream is
still be undefeated.
the dream is alive in the most fluid of definitions possible. Okay, so going into round 6, what's up next?
So next up, I pair into, spoiler alert, a good player from Team France, Olivier Weiss, who is if you don't recognize that name, that is the dude that won War Masters.
Oh shit, okay, I didn't realize it was that guy. Holy shit. He's very good.
And he's very good. You know what? Do you know anything about this game?
I don't know anything about this game. I stopped caring after you lost
So
in the
tell
shadow
me what
round.
detachment this is based off of the list I'm going to describe to you.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting one.
The Lion, 3 Predator Destructors, 3 Ballistus Dreadnoughts, 2 Vindicators, and I think there's a uh whatever the speeder is. One little speeder running around, and just a couple scoring chaff units. What detachment do
I
you think
mean,
this
my gut
is?
is telling me, what's the gun one for Marines called? Ironstorm,
Hmm.
but I'm guessing it's not. So, so there's Raven Wing and there's Inner Circle. I feel like there's another Dark Angels one that I'm not aware of, and I feel like
This is the Deathwing one, which
okay,
it isn't.
I Gladius? Question mark? I don't know.
No, this is Ravenwing.
I was Raven Wing. All right, bro, let's go.
Whole army has advance, fall back, and shoot.
Okay.
You've never seen more fear in my eyes with the ballistas dreadnought like speed running at me as fast as possible to fucking
Just Kool Aid
dome.
manning up the board.
Kool-Aid manning up the board. This like weird like it's just a dome and an 8 pound in the face.
Oh, that's
Um,
awful.
this was a hell of a game. And I think he would agree with me in saying that this was a very stressful game. Like we had to get very analytical with this one, like very precise, very correct. Horrible terrain layout for melee again against advance and shoot the
The
army with
freakiest army you've played.
which the destructors are really good into world leaders. Ballistas Dreadnoughts being 140 points just means the Gladiator Reapers on smaller base. I guess they're on the same base, but smaller footprint. Or not Gladiator Reapers, the Lancers. So, the game starts with him going first. I set myself up in such a way that the only way he can get angles on me is if he gets super aggressive. Like he could have driven if he rolled a 6 on a Vindicator, he could have gotten the Vindicator up into my grill to be able to see, I think, 3 8 bound, but then he'd be a free charge for my entire army. So he was like, I was like fine with that. I think he was trying to like, I don't think he was trying to bully me before the game. But it's something you gotta watch out for as a player is like, especially if you're playing into like those mid-table bullies and upper level players, is like as they're describing their threat range, their own threat ranges into you, they can present it in a way that it's like, hey, if you deploy here, I can shoot you just so you know. So that can be like, we do that all the time to people. We're like, hey, we can move 23 inches and charge turn one. So when you tell somebody that, they'll back up. Same thing. He was trying to do that to me, but I was just like, bet, do it. If you want to put a Vindicator here, I was like,
Come
I was like,
hither.
homie, if you put a Vindicator there to shoot at 3 8 bound, it's dead. Do it. I was like, do it. I want you to. And like, I put like 2 spawn on the side of the board, and he's like, just so you know, if I advance a Vindicator up, I can see him. And I was like, do it. I was like, I don't even think you can kill him. Like, I was trying to egg him on into it too. I was about to be like, nah, you can't do it. And it worked. Like he tried to psyops me into like deploying further back, and then I think I overconfidenced him in deploying further back himself. I was like, I'm going first. You're fucked, is what I said. Um, he gave me a turn one angle charge so I could get Angron into 2 units. I think Angron could touch which still isn't even good trading. Like I charged a Predator Destructor and a Ballistas Dreadnought.
I mean,
Which
it's like
combined are like 260 points, and I
it's
was
like
just
a
like,
yeah, it's almost half its cost.
which I was like, fine, whatever. I was like, you gave me a 2 for 1, so I guess I'll take it. Invocatus charges into the middle of the board. I think he had a few of those like little buggies. I don't know what you call them.
Oh, Outrider ATVs, I
Yeah,
think.
the ATVs. He had one of those in the middle. Invocatus went out and killed it. And he was just a scoring unit. Um, 6 Exalted 8 bound decided to charge a lieutenant, and that was
That's a
it.
choice.
That was all they wanted to kill.
That's a choice.
Um, and then the other side of the board, it's Terraform. I push Spawn up to Terraform. So my thought process was,
That
if I
makes
throw the
sense.
Exalted at him, I throw Angron at him, I put Invocatus in the middle of the board, and then I stagger the rest of my 2 8 bound squads and the 3-man Exalted 8 bound squad that's coming down. Plus Mo, I was like, I'm gonna have a good enough clap back to secure my Terraform with the Spawn because he's gonna be more focused on the Exalted and Angron. And I was like, I'm still convinced I'm going to live through it. Like the Predator Destructors had last cannon sponsons, and the 8 bound were positioned in a way that only one Vindicator and like one Predator could see them. So I was like, I'm probably coming out of that alive, like with like 2, but I was fine with that. And he did have Lionel Johnson on the board, and I was also like, I'm never touching this thing. I was like, if it touches me, great, but I'm never charging him. I'm never going near him. I'm never giving him a heroic intervene. I'm just going to pretend he doesn't exist because he's too slow to do anything. Um, Angron 2 for 1s. Invocatus picks up the ATV. I'm terraforming the 6 Exalted 8 bound massacre a poor fucking lieutenant that was out in the open. He's like, I'm gonna reactive move, and I was like, bet where? And he's like, oh. Because if he reactive moved, he would let me slingshot into another
Yeah, go
vehicle. And he's like,
further up. Yeah.
and he was like, I guess I just stand still. Well, I still ended up slingshotting into a ballistas. Two ape exalted ape bomb brought a ballistas down to like 2 wounds, which was like nice. I mean, it was like the sergeant and a dude because they don't have -1 damage. So they're just like bodies. So you just hit them, brought it down. I was like, yeah, that's a consolation prize for me about to lose my exalted. Lieutenant's dead. I just wanted his point scoring gone. Like I said, if he's doing actions with tanks, I'm happy. Because that was the other thought process I had is if I took all his trash turn one, he's not scoring containment anymore. He's not doing cleanse anymore. He's not doing any of these actions anymore. He's either doing that or he's shooting at me. So I feel like at this event, it was like I was actually trying my hardest to table myself at my opponent's inconvenience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
They're like,
does. Yeah.
they're like, damn it, I have to shoot him. Like that's what it was. That's what he was doing. Um, so the ballist, so I kill the ballistas, kill the predator. Um, he wings around. I think it was actually, well, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was a predator. I was gonna say I thought it was a vindicator, but it wasn't. Mo shoves up into a side rune in his car, and I pass the turn. Exactly what I said was about to happen. Between all of his shooting, Angron actually lives at like 4 wounds. That doesn't mean he's safe. There's Lionel Johnson staring at him. We're about to have a lore accurate battle where the lion shield bashes Angron's face into the floor, and that absolutely happened. What he didn't see coming was Angron blowing up.
Oh, that's hot. That's super hot.
Excuse me. The lion did not kill Angron. The lion didn't get a chance to. Angron died in the shooting phase. I was incorrect. Lion charged the exalted ape bound, who actually of the six, a Vindicator and two Predators shot into the six Exalted 8 pound. Killed two, like I said. Um, 5 up saves, 5 up feel no pains go burr. Right, you're only 3 damage. Like I can scam you a little bit if I just roll a little hot, just a little hot. Lion charges the six Exalted 8 pound and only kills two, or the four remaining of the six Exalted only kills two. So there's two, no three. There's one left. Angron dies in shooting, and when Angron dies, he blows up. And there were so many vehicles next to Angron from his side of the board. The Lion takes 6 mortal wounds, and he
Oh,
doesn't have his Feel No
huge.
Pain up. The vehicle, a Ballistus takes 6 mortal wounds. I think a Vindicator takes a few mortal wounds. My Exalted take 1 mortal wound. Feel No Pain it. Invo takes 6 on the face and just like is like guts hanging out from like Angron's tail falling on his head or something. But he's like fine.
Some areas straight through the neck. Love it.
But the Lion couldn't pile because he wanted to kill the Exalted 8 bomb, pile onto the objective, and steal it from me.
Mm.
He couldn't because the Exalted scammed him and lived. So I held 3 objectives. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, like the weirdest interaction I've ever seen happens. Ballistic Dreadnought, Speeder shoot my spawn and kill them. Just like severe overkill. But I was like, okay. And then I was like, now what? And he's like, all right, I'm going to declare a charge. And I was like, what do you mean you're charging? And he charges my Rhino and wraps it
Oh,
uh,
gross.
with those two vehicles to keep Mo from getting out. And we had like a 20-minute judge call to see if I could actually get Mo out. Turns out I couldn't by like a few more millimeters. And which sucked. But I was also like, you just like took 300 points of units to kill Spawn and my stuff's still alive, and you locked me in my car. So like I said, I had a lot of stuff still left on the board. So
I
one
hope you
eight
use
pound.
firing deck from the Rhino. Mo and the boys hopping at the top. Just
No, the five berserkers, 8 pound and exalted 8 pound charge into that brick and clean it up. Um, the And I also did major psychological damage to my opponent too. Every battle round of the game, I rolled trip six.
oh,
Spoiler alert! I guess I just spoiled something.
well, I mean,
Every single battle round, I rolled trip six. Um, but I clean up that side. I get Mo unlocked out of his car. He's now safe. Killed the ballistic dreadnought. Killed the speeder. So now he's down two ballistic dreadnoughts. Speeder's dead. Invocatus was alive and went and whacked and finished off. Invocatus and that exalted 8 pound went and finished off the last ballistic dreadnought that Angron had blown up onto. Killed him handedly. So now he's just left with like two Vindicators, a very wounded lion, and two Predators on the wrong side of the board out of position. Angron proceeds to revive. Don't even tell me that's the reason why I won the game, because it wasn't. Because Angron came down in his home objective, terraformed, and sat there for 2 turns. And I looked at my opponent and I was like, I'm going to be super fucking toxic right now. I was like, you don't have board control and you can't get it back. I own 3 of the 5 objectives. I'm going to terraform and stare at you for the last 2 turns of the game, and that's what happened. He couldn't do secondaries, he couldn't do actions. All of his stuff was injured. Shout out to my jackals. Um, They went and out OC'd the Vindicator and the Predator on the one objective he did control for like a turn and a half. And 8 bound put a Predator to 4 wounds, and the Jackals took it to 0,
Oh, nice. Let's go.
wounding
Let's
on
go.
sixes with full rerolls to wound. It was like the funniest dice rolling interaction ever. Um, and I don't want to go too far into that because that's not exactly true. I realized I actually rolled the wrong amount of dice, and after looking down, I owned up to it. I was like, "Hey, man, I think my Jackals. I was really hyped that my Jackals killed your Predator, but I actually think I rolled one too many because you'd killed a guy earlier." So we re-rolled it out and actually brought the Predator down to 1 wound. So we put it back. I didn't want to be dishonest or lie. I was just like, "Hey, I think I fucked up, so let's just redo the interaction." Didn't end up mattering. The Predator, I think, died to Desperate Escape because it failed its battle shock, and he just didn't have enough game pieces to play the game. I didn't want to move Angron out because I didn't want to give him Assassinate, Bring It Down if he drew those cards, and just hot shotted me with the Vindicator from downtown. And like I said, I just sat there terraforming. Game ends 94 to a 68 win for me.
Big. That's a big old skull to take there.
Yeah, a lot of people came up to me afterwards and like, I really like not knowing who my opponents are. It really helps me play better
Mm,
because I just psych myself out.
sweet. We're nearly there. 2 games left, right?
2 games left, round 7.
Let's get to it. Round 7. This is a
Uh,
marathon, dude.
I know, man. I mean, I guess this is game 8, which is what
Yeah,
I
this
was
is
telling everybody.
technically
It's like,
game 8. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
game 8. So at this point, the undefeated dream is still alive, guys. Like, I'm still
That
trying to go for undefeated.
tender, thin rope of the undefeated dream is still there somehow, despite a loss and a draw. Still undefeated. Magic.
Yup. Um, this one's against Vincent Raboul, a Frenchman again. Uh, Very nice opponent. We were very transparent and clear with each other. Very nice game, but this time I powered up. This time I stopped getting Mimi layouts. I'll even call layout 7 like not a real layout. I won't even claim that one. I get layout 1, which is like my most
Oh,
comfortable
layout 1,
GW terrain
baby.
layout.
Oh, the
I,
home
I,
turf.
it's for like a different game. I guess I won't spoil that. But this game actually kind of really echoed the last Thousand Suns game, like eerily close. This except it went in my favor a bit more than last time, for that opening play.
Oh, for fuck's sake, you charged or Angron into Magnus, didn't you? Oh my
Yeah.
god.
So he double moves Cultist up, double moves Magnus up to be able to create a Cultist screen for Magnus. Like I said, he pre-measured. He's like, all right, Angron has no more than like a 10-inch charge to get into Magnus. And I was like, you're correct. I have a 10-inch charge to get into Magnus. That's what I told him. And then I go to my chart movement phase and I was like, all right, 4-inch gets me into Magnus. He's like, I thought you said a 10. I said, yeah, it is a 10. I'm charging the Cultist, bro. And Angron hopped the Cultists. Cultists get wiped by because he did all that to get a peak on Exalted 8-bound. Magnus fired into Exalted 8-bound and killed 3.
Ooh.
He didn't have any Doom bolts. It was just Magnus shooting, which actually should kill about 3 8-bound
Yeah, I mean it's
because
very
he's
good.
wounding on 4s with the one gun. And it's all AP1, and I had cover, so that was what was also going for me. And then the 3 damage shot into a 5-up, feel no pain. Like killing 3 was actually slightly above average. You should kill like 2.5. Um, But then he left himself open to me to charge 8-bound, Angron, and Invocatus all into Magnus. And I threw +1 to wound up, full rerolls to hit, and Magnus lived at 4, miraculously. I don't know how. Like,
I know how.
Magnus is bullshit. That's how.
Ron never kills Magnus on average.
He
Like
didn't have
literally
-1
never.
damage up.
Yeah,
He
I
didn't have
mean
minus
even
one damage
still.
up.
Even still. Do you
No, I
think
think he
you've
had.
learned?
No, I'll do it again.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I know the math. The math is that Angron kills Magnus like 35 to 40% of the time. But in my head, it's like,
That's such bad math.
and I was like, but if it happens turn 1, I win the game. And if Angron dies turn 1, I can still win the game, is what the math is. So the monkey in my brain was just like, do it. Like, go.
Sure.
Um, so, and this dude, 2 games in a row, double moves cultists up and charges my rhino and locks Mo in his fucking car again. And I'm just like so livid at this point. I even like, he forced me to rapid ingress Exalted 8-bound to heroically intervene if he tried to do it into fucking cultists.
Oh, I love it.
I had to rapid ingress to attempt a heroic intervene into cult, and he still found a way to lock Mo in his car without. actually completing the charge because he just double moved up and it was just stupid and I just hated it. He had 10 Rubrics with flamers that had the uppy downy come up in my back line and I was like, well, that's his house now. Like he gets to own that now. I'm not taking that. Um, we go through his whole turn. His Magnus smacks Angron back. Does actually a reasonable amount of damage this time. Only I think I failed two saves. Roll hot and the feel no pain only take like 5 damage. Go into his turn. He doom bolts me in the face, and then Magnus attacks him. A little bit of extra shooting. I think the funny 2 damage loser man, magic man shoots with the flamer, shoots Angron, and all of that brings Angron down to like 3 wounds. And Angron's still in combat with Magnus. And Angron now has full rerolls to wound from the 8 bound nearby him because Magnus is below half. We wipe Angron out. Or sorry, we wipe Magnus out. And then I look at him and I'm like, I am never gonna give you a chance to overwatch Angron with this stupid little magic man. So I actually did like the ballsiest thing ever, is I was like, I didn't tell him that because like I knew that's what he wanted. He felt really, he was upset that he didn't kill Angron, but I was like, I'm upset I didn't kill Magnus. Like we're like, you can't be mad at me right now because I definitely overcommitted to kill Magnus and didn't do it. I think if I run the math a million times, I think I kill him there. Like 3 8 bound, full rerolls to wound. Invocatus, full rerolls to wound. Plus Angron with +1 to wound with rerolls to hit. All of them rerolls to hit. And Magnus. I felt like I should have killed him.
Keep coping, but go on.
Whatever. I stupid wizards. Um, so I start how I always start against like Grey Knights, where it's like I'm gonna progressively turn the pressure up for the decision to Overwatch. So like I start by moving those 3 Exalted 8 bound that were in position to heroically intervene. I was like, you know what, these cultists are fine. They moved towards the 10 rubrics that were in my deployment zone. I was like, would you like to overwatch these 3 Exalted 8 bound? Obviously, the answer is no, because Angron is still there. He wants to kill Angron. It's like, sweet. All right, Mo's going to get out and move towards some rubric Marines with flamers. Would you like to overwatch them? The answer is no, because he wants to overwatch Angron. All of the Exalted 8 bound move. And they moved in such a way that I made his overwatch really hard. I was like, would you like to overwatch them? And he's like, no. I was like, okay. I'm not going to move Angron.
Yeah, I love it.
And Angron still had, and I was like, and I'm gonna pop +1 to charge on Angron, and I was like, all right, he has an 8 inch charge into you, bro, and I have a CP,
Let's play the funny game.
and I just start my charges in the same order, and slowly
Yep.
creep it up to the point where I cut his Overwatch charges off, or he didn't Overwatch me really at all that turn because he was so focused on me trying to fail a die roll just so he could Overwatch Angron, which Angron just didn't fucking move, and Angron still banked the charge into I think a Demon Prince after I had locked down his Overwatch with a different charge. And just I just tabled him at that point
Yeah.
because I was just playing psyops with who's gonna flinch first, and I know how to play that game. It's just you start low and build the pressure up
I
and
love
don't
it
give
though.
them a
Yeah,
good
it's
chance.
it's so fun. It's like cursed chicken.
And if he did
Um,
Overwatch something, then Angron was gonna go guaranteed charge like 10 rubrics and wipe the squad. So like
Sweet.
he really had no good choice. I really don't think the Thousand Suns matchup's that bad, is my
No,
takeaway from
it's
this.
pretty okay.
Like I just described two disaster scenarios for me. Like in either of those games, if I took Magnus turn one, game's over on the spot. They just cannot deal with the insane amount of pressure we can give them, and they're all 2 wound bodies and can what we spam 2 damage. Like the matchup's fine.
So, last game, the undefeated dream is still alive.
Yep, undefeated dream still alive. I even get to get revenge. Um, Pairing into Fritz Peters, I think is his name. Uh, Fritz Peters. Very, 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 very good and nice player. I looked at him before the game. He actually played and beat Ryan. And Ryan will go in detail about that game, but that game upset Ryan because Ryan only lost by a few points. I think he lost to him on the ritual back in Layout 7 land. Um, but I looked at Fritz before the game and I was like, brother, my brain is jelly. I was like, can we like hold hands while we play this game? And I was like, I promise I'm not being mean or grumpy. I just took like 5 ibuprofen. My brains are about to fall out of my head. I hurt. If I'm grumpy for any reason, it's because my back and my legs are about to give out. And it's like nothing personal. He said the same thing. We both shared a beer during the middle of the game. We stopped. Had a lot of good laughs. Fantastic opponent. Um, He's playing Hypercrypt, Triple Doomsday Arc, Silent King, Double Satan. Turn one, nothing really happens. He puts scoring units out. I go and kill scoring units and set up Sticky. We go into his turn two. He decides that he doesn't like the idea of me stickying, so he gets a little bit more aggressive with his Satan, pushes out. And at this point, I don't roll advance and charge because I really needed to get into his deployment zone. And I was stuck with a hard decision of do nothing and let the Doomsday Arcs reset and shoot into me. In this game, I also did put 6 Exalted 8-Bound into reserves because I wanted to rapid ingress them on a later turn. Be able to threaten a Doomsday Arc. 3 Exalted 8-Bound do not kill a Doomsday Arc. 6 will definitely do it. So my thought process was against these players, you want to keep them on their toes and you want to keep them playing defensively. And the only way to do that is by giving them a big threat in reserves. Give them something to fear that you can respond to make them think harder than they have to, which is why I did that. But I had a hard decision of I do nothing with my turn, and he just gets to play the game and run me over, or I charge Angron at a Satan and hope Angron kills a Satan. Charged Angron at a Satan, he didn't kill a Satan. Did not. Left it at 2. And I popped +1 to wound, gave him wound rerolls. Wasn't enough. Satan actually didn't hurt him back like at all. It was the Void Dragon. He fell
Yeah,
back
Void
with that
Dragon is
Satan.
pretty trash against Angron, but yeah.
Yeah. And he fell back with that Satan. And then the Nightbringer like did like the and like made Angron flinch and he had a heart attack and fell over. Um Fucking laser beam eyes of hell. He rolled
Oh.
D3 shots, he rolled 3 shots, 3 hits, 3 wounds. I fail all 3 saves and fucking laser beams Angron in the face and Angron falls over dead, never to be heard from again that game. And he had the fucking reanimator in
Oh.
his list that heals 2d3. So of course that dumbass Satan that lived at 2 heals 6. It heals 6 again. And I was just like, this game is great. So then we go into my next turn. This is the turn where I send the meme to the boys. I like slap the table like you can fit
You
so
can
many
fit
eight
so
pound
many 8-pound in
in
this
this
room.
in this room. I think I had every one of my 8-pound on the table lined up in like a perfect like box
Wedge, yeah. That
that
was
they
good.
couldn't be seen. And they just delta split to go attack everything. Mo +10 plus the 6 Exalted 8-Bound charge the Silent King +3 regular 8-Bound plus Invocatus with the intent to pile out and Mo to go kill that wounded Satan. I didn't kill the Silent King. I also failed my charge into a couple Doomsday Arcs, who then proceeded to pick up the 8-Bound and everything else that was charging them, just because I failed some weird charges. When Mo charged the Silent King, I accidentally rolled boxcars, my bad, and had to base him. So the Exalted 8-Bound had to make like a 9-inch charge now, which they did make, but it screwed regular 8-Bound from getting in. We go to Mo, he rolls his 7 attacks, misses 4 times, re-rolls, misses 3 times. Rolls, fails to wound, rolls, fails to wound.
Nice.
And
Let's go, Mo.
8-Bound, Exalted 8-Bound swing, can't do it. And I was like, okay. I left a lot of your, like, at this point, he has like 3 or 4 assets that are at like 2 to 3 wounds. And I was just like, against Hypercrypt, that basically means they're full. Doomsday Arcs just picked me up. And I was like, all right, I can't play. We're good. And we called the game there.
Nice.
He blows me off the table pretty handedly. That matchup, I feel like, is still World Leader favored, but I missed advance and charge too many turns in a row, which really kept me pinned into my deployment zone. I wasn't able to really pressure him as much as I wanted to. He didn't have to respect me as much, and he just got to play corners with Doomsday Arcs because of that. Because like a Doomsday Arc now can measure exactly like we can move 17 and get him. He has to be way back and probably not get an angle. But now if we can only move 9 or 11,
Different game.
he doesn't have to respect us nearly as much.
It's a
Which you can't, yeah, you
bit
can't
of a
get lucky
sad
every
ending.
game. I mean, I
But I
finished
mean, it
six.
is what it is.
I finished 6-1-1, which is better than last year. Last year I was 6-2, which I was super excited.
Marginal
Uh,
increase. It's going to take you, what is that? One, two, three, 3 more years to go undefeated if you keep like the incremental increase.
oh yeah, the half game wins.
Mm-hmm.
Which these last few games are actually very important for me because best in faction was not locked. Like I could still lose 2 games and lose best in faction. The next world leaders that were doing very well. Philip, who is from Slovenia, was doing really well. He was actually playing the RB2K with a slight twist, which was really cool to see. Somebody actually came up to me while I was there and said they were playing the RB2K there, and they said that they also really enjoyed the list.
Nice. Yeah, it's a
Fraser
fun
Berry
one.
was there. with a very interesting list. He was playing no Invo, triple 8 pound. Made a bet with him. I told him that if he could go 4-4, I would kind of give him a little bit of a shout out. So yeah, I mean, like he went 5-3 with no Invocatus, which is kind of nuts. Um,
That
in
is
this meta,
impressive.
I will say in this meta, into Tau, Sisters, and Guard, you definitely want to be charging them turn one. And Envo really enables that, especially with Exalted. So that's definitely a choice, but I would rather end turn one with Exalted in engagement. But good job, dude. It's Worlds. Like, congrats. All of the world leaders did super well, even Ryan. Um,
Even Ryan.
I mean, he was not feeling himself there. He was getting really upset with himself, which he'll get into discussion with.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
a lot of his games were like thin, close,
Razor
like
thin. Like,
razor thin. Like Dara kept asking me, like the chat was like, "How is Ryan doing? How is Ryan doing?" And my answer every time was, "I don't know."
yeah, it was
Like
awful.
it, I never walked over to his table and was like, "Oh, he's crushing." And this room, like I said, is full of monsters. Like I randomly paired the guy who won War Masters, who I think he went 4-2-2, which is like a respectable result, but like the guy who won WTC's singles event is only winning half of his games here, guys. Like this is nuts. So it was a really cool
Yeah,
experience.
awesome. That's really cool, man. Um, Best world leader at the World Championships. Is that 2 years in a row?
2 years
You
in a
know,
row?
dude,
Yes.
that's fucking awesome.
And I'd say that probably this meta was way more hostile towards us than the last one. I finished 13th, which despite gaining 100 players, I think I finished 17th or 18th last time, so I was really excited to actually progress in placings up too.
Mm.
I finished 13th and best in faction twice in a row, so like I'm feeling good.
Honestly, man, it's like a crazy achievement. I know, one of the coolest things all weekend was how hype the community was for you and Ryan. Like, I mean, I can speak for myself. I was extremely excited. It's the most excited I've ever been following an event without attending. Um, but everyone in the Discord community, I feel like they really got behind you guys. They really gave you a lot of support, and you could really tell the excitement. People were messaging me being like, "Hey, any update from Ryan and Brian?" And I was like, "Nope, I know what you guys know." It was,
Yeah, we were super stressed, and it wasn't we
yeah,
weren't ignoring the community. We were just
you're in
so
the zone. Yeah,
yep.
in the zone. Um, yeah, look, that was an awesome recap, man. Obviously, congrats again. It's like a phenomenal achievement to have gone to Worlds twice, to have taken Best World Leader there twice, to place as high as you have in as hostile a meta 2 years in a row. Will you go back for number three?
I don't know, and honestly, I think it depends a lot on our codex.
Hmm.
I really think it depends because I've gotten so close to winning my pods this time. If I go again, I want to win my pods. My new goal is I don't even care about best in faction. I just want to make top cut. That is
Hmm.
my new goal. And that's not me saying I'm gonna be sweaty, but it's a lot of money to go down there, guys, and we really appreciate all the support. You guys really helped make this possible. Um, but it's a lot and it's draining and it's mentally hard. Like I think I've been talking for the last few videos that we've been doing that like how much prep I've been putting into this painting, even the hobbying to try to get up to par there, which I was not at par. I was below par, and I was even with a very beautiful Angron that almost had a horrible disaster return flight home,
Jesus Christ, man.
which
Yeah, that
we're
was
not
rough.
gonna get too far into that one. But he
Yeah.
survived.
Mm.
Invocatus can't say the same thing, but he survived. Um, it's a really cool event. It's a really cool experience. And I mean, I'm shooting for top ITC world leader right now. I think this event should secure that. I got LVO coming up too that I'm probably going to look out for. But I just want to have the trophy that says best world leader next to my best in faction world leaders, and I'm happy.
Hell yeah, dude. It's awesome. And obviously, yeah, to echo what Brian said, like a huge thanks to our Patreons for helping to get Brian and Ryan there because it was extremely expensive. Hopefully, you know, next year we'll have some sort of representation if there is another WTC. The fingers are crossed for me that it's on in Europe because then I will absolutely sweat my balls off to get a golden ticket. But we will wait and see how that goes.
We can
So
just do the
go on.
team get together in Canada and get you a golden ticket.
Sure, let's all go hunt for golden tickets in Canada. We're going on a bear hunt. Um, yeah, look, it's been a really cool video. I just think it's incredible what both of you did. You know, almost like regardless of results, like you represented the channel extremely well. You represented yourselves extremely well, and yeah, hopefully you both had an amazing time. What's next? You know, like, are you gonna chill out for a while? Obviously, we got new detachments on the horizon, content coming for that real soon. But yeah, like, what's next on the agenda?
I have LVO coming up, and that's in like 2 months from now.
Yeah,
Which would be nice because we're gonna have a new attachment out before then, which we are going to be making predictions for soon. Don't we don't have any insider
I have
knowledge,
it
guys,
all.
so
I have
don't
it all.
shh. We don't have any insider knowledge, guys, so if you're seeing this, like, don't stop.
Message
I
me.
did make a bet that I do have a GT of a friend. They're running a GT in Toledo, in Glass City. I've already promised to blind run whatever our new detachment is. I'm playing it. I don't care what it is. I'm playing that detachment at the GT.
Yeah, I'm
Battle
running an
Battle Shock
RTT.
theme be damned. I'm playing it.
I'm running an RTT in the middle of December, and I told everyone I was like, guys, I don't care how broken or unbalanced anything is. Whatever's out by midnight of the night before the RTT, it's in the tournament. So
Oh, list
be
submission's gonna be
fun.
the day of then.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, listen, there is no list submission. It's an RTT. You rock up with what you got.
Oh, what the fuck? Okay. But yeah, that's coming forward. I really want to take a step back though. Like, not that I am burnt out. I am the opposite of burnt out. I'm more hyped than ever for competitive 40K. I really think I've pushed this index as far as I physically can though.
Yeah,
I am
we have
tired
no
of
more room for innovation.
we have none.
Yeah,
The next innovation I have is actually fitting a Forge Fiend in there because my prediction is this data slate, despite whatever the detachments may say, because there's a chance that they're all just kind of memey. Some armies need new detachments. There's a good chance that a lot of the good armies, like, it's going to be really, I'm going to be honest, guys, it's going to be really hard for a detachment to beat what we currently have. Um, Now, that's not me saying that it's not going to be good. It's just going to be hard. But some
yeah.
armies like Death Guard and Custodes are probably begging for a new detachment,
It's
right?
terrifying. Yeah, yeah, for
So they're
sure,
probably
for sure.
begging for a new one. I see on the meta coming, I think Sisters are going to get smacked. GSC is going to get smacked. Guard is going to get smacked. I think Gunlines are going to be taken down a peg. And I predict the next meta is going to be a melee meta. I think Custodians are going to be on the rise. Folger Piles is actually a local who has beat my butt on stream a few times, which I now feel more validated about. Like, I'm like, yeah, the world champion's beaten me a few times on stream, so that makes that loss feel less bad. I feel like Custodians are going to be way more common now because they all just got the inspiration they needed to jam triple wardens up the middle of the board and
They'll be
pray.
common for like 2 weekends, and then everyone's like, "Well, I can't play. I don't roll enough fours.
So a
It's
Forge
over."
Fiend is on the menu for me, guys. That's where all that was going.
Hmm.
I'm planning on playing just some weird stuff. I don't necessarily think it's the best. I don't think it's the worst, but I got to try
Nice,
to have fun with this army in some way.
sweet. Yeah, it's exciting. Lots of cool stuff coming up. And coming up on the Red Path, we do have part two of the WCW recap with Ryan, which I will be hopefully putting out, I think, the start of next week. We'll also have our detachment speculation video, which is totally detachments that we don't know are real or not. The spoiler is that I have it all, and
Dara
everything
has
you
the
see from
codex
me,
literally in front of
I
him.
literally wrote the codex, guys. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff coming out, and then obviously we will be into Christmas time, where we will be taking a little bit of a break just to enjoy some holiday time and review what we want to do with the Red Path next year. But we will have the end of year recap. However, for now, this has been quite a long episode of the Skull Takers. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Brian. Why don't you say the last words and take us out of this one?
Yeah, guys, if you stuck around this long, I know these videos are going to be a little bit longer than normal, because I mean, there's just a lot to recap from WCW. So if you've stuck around, really thank you guys. Please consider liking and subscribing. Like, everything helps. If you have any more questions you want to ask about the event, because there's some stuff I probably missed or didn't say, or faction details, feel free to pop in the Discord and ask. I'm more than happy to talk you through some of those matchups and kind of what happened in detail. So please, like, interact with us in the Discord. If you want even more help, please consider joining our Patreon too. Like, list support. Now that WCW is done, I'm offering myself up for some TTS games with some of our patrons. Like, I'm here for you guys. I'm here to help. Same thing with Dara and his hobby advice, and even in his non-Gron. And I think the one thing that I can say for the detachments is they did say they were going to try to push non-Gron
Here
as
we
a
go,
detachment.
baby. My time is
No,
coming.
we have no idea what this detachment's going to be, but we have heard rumors that it's going to push non-Gron. So maybe Dara's time has come. So, if you want to tune into some of that stuff, hear from Jamie, Ryan, me, Jack, and the crew, please consider joining the Patreon. But other than that, uh, I guess that's it. So, like, this here was Dara. My name's Brian. And remember, guys, stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.